Well, I need to send it.
Scan it.
Yeah, sure, I'll keep working on this computer too, but
We got a vote for the Bike Towers Golf Tournament. We got a vote today, the whole one budget, so they're all penetrated. What kind of, I don't know, it's a $22,000.
Well, I guess there's an option to look for a stage place. Lectures.
Planes.
What's it called?
Thank you, Norm.
Some of the price.
Linda, it's time 21 after the hour. Take a roll call, your list.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, folks. She's still working on this stuff, I gotta see it. Gentlemen. Public comment, if anybody with public comment right now? Yeah. If anybody has public comment, leave it to a couple of minutes, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Bruno Morris. I've lived at Point Roberts for about 18 years. And I've seen this fire commission and fire chiefs change over the years. I've seen problems in the past, and I participated the best I could in giving advice when I could. I just want to say that right now I've got to say to you commissioners, thank you. This is probably the best I've ever seen in my years of being here, the fire department run. You've got an excellent chief, but if it wasn't for you guys in that commission seat, he probably wouldn't be here. And I do want to thank you for serving. Myself, I don't represent anyone else in the community, but it is a job that many times goes without thanks, and I came here tonight to thank you for doing it and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Will. Heartfelt, thank you. Okay. Approval of the minutes, we have 2 minutes of regular meeting and a special meeting. Both of you had the minutes of the regular meeting? And if so, you approve with, can I have a motion for that?
I'd make a motion for approval of the last regular meeting. I'm sorry, I don't have the date.
April 8th.
April 8th.
Okay?
I would add an amendment to that resolution.
It's not a resolution, it's a motion, Jeff.
Motion, okay,
Right.
that's even better.
Okay.
And include the time of the meeting.
Say again?
Include the time of the meeting.
It says the meeting was called to order at 4 p.m.
And adjourned at 5:15.
But if you go back to the previous minutes, you'll find that that's missing. The time example, there are two things here. I don't want to waste our time, but there's 4 o'clock call to order, and there is a called meeting that doesn't have any time. You go out to the front door where the notice is posted up, and there's no time.
Oh, on the agenda, we should add the time. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay.
Oh.
Very good.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Okay, well,
That's to the
not
agenda.
resolved then.
Yeah, I'll include that in my motion to approve that we should note the time on the agenda.
You don't have to make a motion, though. You usually include that. This has nothing to do with the minutes. This is just
A
a
suggestion, okay.
by the rather than make the change. Okay, that was April the 8th. Any further discussion on that motion? No? All in favor of it? Aye. Motion passed. 3-0. And we have the next meeting, that was a special meeting last month, April 15th. Is there anybody that wants to have a little discussion on that one? If not, then can I have a motion on that particular meeting?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes for April 15th.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed, 3-0. Next item. Okay, we have a resolution to explore. I don't have it handy here, but I saw it on my email. Do we have a copy of it today? To appoint, Betty Markell. My fellow commissioners, have you seen the motion? Have you seen
Yeah,
it?
it was on the.
I have it in my iPad, I can, but I don't.
If you guys would like to have a copy of it, I can print on a copy real quick.
It has to be signed.
It has to be signed by the end.
But you read the resolution.
Read it, it's
Okay,
online.
just give me a second.
Holy fuck.
Oh, hey, work out later. So this is the resolution that was sent to you? Yes. Email. Yes, sir. Okay, so it is okay, Commissioner, if I read it.
You go ahead and read it, thank you.
Okay, resolution number 2015-01. Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire District Number 5, Whatcom County, Washington, appointing an investment officer cash manager for Whatcom County Fire District 5. Whereas the district investment officer cash manager is responsible for the management of the district's investment funds, is authorized to transfer funds and request disbursements for the district's various funds upon direction of the board. And whereas the current position is held by Patty Markell. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire District Number 5 that Patty Markell be appointed as the district investment officer cash manager until such time for further resolution by the board. In addition, Fire Chief Christopher Carlton shall also have the authority to serve as district investment officer cash manager in cooperation with Patty Markell, or at such time that Patty Markell is unable to fulfill the position due to unforeseen circumstances. Adopted by the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire District Number 5, Whatcom County, Washington, at its regular open public meeting held on May 15th, 2015.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion on this particular resolution?
Today's the 15th.
It's the 11th.
So I gotta change the date before you guys sign it. It's May 13th.
Yeah, because at the county, it's today.
Yeah, so I'll change it before they sign it.
Yeah, my signing authority is gone.
Yeah, I'll change it to 13th. So, and I'll do that so we can get the meeting continue, but I'll do that at the end.
So do we need a motion to approve this?
Yeah, but first I'm going to ask you both if you need to feel the need to comment on that. And if you need further discussion on that,
May I address the candidate personally?
you go ahead.
And number 7,
Yes.
do you have the same check signing privileges that you bring them over here?
This is not a check signing privilege. What this is for when I will be transferring internal funds from the county to and from, in between funds for District 5 or to the bank to cover payroll through paychecks. It will just authorize me to sign that form that I faxed to the county. At District 7, my chief has that authority, but I complete all of the paperwork. And if he is not here, I stamp it for him and then he initials later.
Do they have or by addition, do we have a policy on 2 signatures required for minimum disbursements?
There are no, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but first of all, we don't write checks. The county does. These warrants that you're going to approve tonight, those sheets are sent to the county and they prepare the checks. They sign them. But they're not called checks, they're called warrants. And then they're sent back to us and we mail them out. We have no signing authority for warrants at all. And no district does, except those that do their own business.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Suzanne. Any more questions? Yep.
No,
No? Clear on the whole thing?
clearing the whole thing.
Okay. We have no problem with the second part of the resolution, signing
No, these are,
our chief to, in case that is, in case Mary wants to help out there, that he assumes that responsibility. No?
yep.
You okay?
I have no problem with that. I think it's a good move.
Fine. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution? It's the first one this year, right? 001.
Yep, 01.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Second from you, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Approving the resolution, 3-0. Before I go any further, I want to say a heartfelt thanks to Suzanne Kinsey, who has been with us for a very good number of years. How long, about 8 years?
I think about 10 or 11,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah. So long that I can't remember anymore.
On behalf of the board, I would like to say our thanks to you. You helped us steer some tumultuous waters, and you've always come right on top. And we do appreciate it. Thank you. For that, you get one of those for every year you serve.
Thank you.
Ambassador Breeze.
And I'd like to say thank you as well. It's been a great run. I love the fire district, and I think that you're really moving forward now in such a positive direction. So I'm quite happy. I think you're going to do really well. And she's brilliant, so it's all good.
That's what we need, another brilliant woman here. Right?
That's it. She will eventually rein you guys in.
Give me a smile.
Yeah, that's right.
Work at the
I hope you have the same spunk that your predecessor had.
She does.
Do not get so mad at you.
Don't I make everybody color?
You take the worst photographs.
It's not my fault.
Okay, thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Suzanne. We'll continue on that. The financial manager's report, go ahead.
All right, thank you. All right. Warrants for May total $649.97. Items to mention over $1,000 U.S. Bancorp credit card, $5,170.05. SNR Law Office, $1,540. Northwest Communications, $1,139.25. And Shell, fuel bill, $1,283.89. The volunteer payroll included in warrants, total $4,628. Payroll is $14,562.67. That includes Chief Carlton's salary, $4,166.67. Assistant Chief Shields pay, $2,667. And there were 2 events for each commissioner and 1 for the secretary. The volunteer portion totaled $5,971. The total payout for volunteers, warrants included, is $10,599. And your April financial statements are on your tables as presented. And we need motions to approve the warrants for May in the amount of $17,549.97, and also payroll in the amount of $14,562.67.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Any discussion, any questions you got?
Can we run down the U.S. Bancorp a little bit? What that includes? Some major items?
Sure.
I do have the breakdown. I can go.
I'm not looking for the last detail. There's some major items on there. Somehow it just seems more than normal.
Yeah, unless I have the sheet, I wouldn't be able to acquire that for you. I can explain it real quick on the sheet.
Sorry.
No, that's perfectly okay.
While we're waiting on that, I want to review one more time. We do get off-road credit for the fuel that we buy from the Shell station. Is that correct? In other words, there's a certain tax.
Off-road taxes.
Yeah,
taxes.
we fill that out on a yearly basis and send it to Shell.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's it. I noticed our fuel bill is just over the top.
Well, yeah, and that's because of the fuel costs. We went over last year as well because we were in the $4 range. Our people are out on the point a lot more as well. So we have a lot of apparatus moving on the weekends when we have weekend duties. So the bill came to $5,170.05. Is that what you reported?
That's the one.
So any items? There's nothing over $1,000. The alert all is $924.42, and that's the biggest. Everything else is under $300. Actually, one other, Pacific Advertising is where we get all of our letterhead printed, business cards, and where we get our medical report forms printed and burn permits. So that was $588.89. The $924.42 was to Alert All. And Alert All is one of the companies I purchased from in order to get the coloring books, the fire hats, the crayons, and everything else for the kids. And I ordered 2 huge bundles. So we have roughly around 600 pieces of different items, coloring books, wrist bracelets, all those types of things that you see the kids wearing at open house. And I tried to ramp this up for summer so we don't run out. But I'll probably have to make a 3rd order, because it ends up that one kid gets 5 helmets throughout the summer.
And that's okay.
Fire helmets.
That's something that you've instituted, and I think all our equipment has fire hats and coloring books and all that aboard. These kids love it. You know, we forgot to be kids, but the kids all mention it. And they run around, they go home with those fire helmets, and I think they go to bed in them.
Yeah, summer's just starting, so it's.
It's my son who puts it up on his treehouse and practices a slingshot at it because it makes a satisfying noise when you hit the top of the plastic hat.
Would you like a hat too?
No. Yeah, I could pass out everybody a hat if you want one of our little hats. They say Point Roberts on them, so. Yeah, they're pretty fancy.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to be
You like
the
to be-
commissioner that introduces Patty's first resolution in Point Roberts.
Well, yeah. And that was Linda and Patty together for that resolution, and for Patty to become our financial manager. Yeah, so that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we need,
Second,
I think we need a motion first.
We need two motions here.
Two motions, and I'll say them all at once. First motion is to approve the warrants for $17,549.97. And a second motion to approve payroll for $14,562.67.
Could I have a second on that?
yes, you can.
Thank you, Jeff. Are we all in favor of that?
Aye.
Both motions approved and passed, 3-0. Thank you. Okay. That was vouchers, and that was payroll, and we had manager's report, budget update. Is there an update? Okay. Anything out of the ordinary?
Nothing out of the ordinary at this time.
No need
April's all
to
balanced
transfer
and
some money, but we're all doing fine with the various accounts.
we're doing very good with the accounts. I will be investing some funds from expense cash to investment here on Friday.
Well, approximately amount they talking about.
I don't have the amount off the top of my head here.
20 and 24, about 45. Because there's
Oh, that's right, yeah. So approximately about $45,000.
Appreciate it, thank you much. That was the end of the financial stuff. Chief correspondence.
Correspondence, we received a public records request from the All Point Bulletin, and we are in the process of satisfying that request.
When do you expect to put an end to that particular item?
The last email went out to the All Point Bulletin regarding that 2 out of the 3 items satisfied. We have not heard back for a date to be set with our secretary, because our secretary will need to be here for that viewing the records that were requested. And at that point, once we set a date and she's available and the All Point Bulletin individual is available as well, they can come here, view the records, and that'll be that first part. If the third part of that request is also satisfied, they can do those records at the same time.
There'll be no copies made, no copies provided?
The public records request was only for viewing purposes, so there are no copies provided. No copies can be taken from the organization. If copies are requested, then that'll have to go through another process.
We'll start all over again.
Yes.
And that was, I take it, for the All Point Bulletin?
The All Point Bulletin.
Okay. That was the other correspondence you had?
I believe so. I do believe so.
Okay, you should have chief report, go ahead.
Point of information, emergency communications, trying to get our radio system improved and our communications with the main county and paging out of our first responders. I have good news to report. Obviously, Prospect Dispatch is on board with us putting in a new cage and a radio system down in Bellingham. My first MOA was satisfied with the Department of Homeland Security and Customs Border Patrol Protection. We came to an agreement, and that was signed last month. That agreement states that we can put equipment up on their tower down at their Blaine headquarters, and that allows us to utilize their base as well to put our radios and make sure everything's running. From that point forwards, we will be going to Sumas. From Sumas, we have to go down to Washington State Patrol, and the MOU that's needed at this point is Washington State Patrol. I'm in contact with them on a weekly basis. The last email that I sent, I apologize for the backing in.
Washington State, quickly, Sumas, Washington State Patrol to Prospect is your only tribal portion, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the big events was DHS. And I thought that process was going to go longer than it did. They are actually our first MOU. They're incredible people. The agent in charge down there was incredible to help us get this MOU, which is a Memorandum of Understanding, or Memorandum of Agreement, MOA, in place so quickly. Right now, it's Washington State Patrol that is left. The last email, as I was stating, the last email went out on Monday, and they are vetting it at this time. I will send another email before the end of the week to see if I can get any update on that. They have stated that they're willing to start putting together the equipment that is necessary on their end. So the process, once they have an agreement in place, can go quickly. The reservation I have is they're mentioning some type of possible cost associated with following their fiber optic lines into Prospect at this time. And in my last email, I told them that that was a concern of mine because this district can't afford hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a reoccurring monthly basis, just due to our budget limitations. So my emails will hopefully get answered. I hope that they'll come back with the same type of agreement at no cost to the district as Prospect has done in regards to recurring monies and also DHS. So DHS has allowed us to come into their facility free of cost, which is tremendous. So it's a great cooperation that we're establishing. When I know from WSP, I'll let the commissioners know as well. And then I'm hoping to have that solved before the end of May. And then starting the project in June and having it in place before some of the bigger weekends this summer. And at that point, we'll be dispatching from Whidbey Telecom's site, and we'll also be transmitting from that site. So it'll be a great, great improvement for us. Washington State Rating Bureau visit is complete. This governs our fire rating for insurance purposes. We are currently a 6 within this program, and the numbers go from 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute worst. If I remember from their website correctly, there's about 9,000 fire departments in the United States that are classified as an ISO of 6. Class 1 is the very best you can get, and usually you only see large metropolitan, well-outfitted rural volunteer organizations or combination departments receiving those. There's a bunch of areas that are looked at, as I think I explained last month, that are looked at. That's water supply, hydrants, how many hydrants we have, how many volunteers respond to calls, our training records, the apparatus that we have, any apparatus over 25 years old, those types of things, because as our apparatus get older and we don't have replacements, will be discounted points off of our rating purposes, which could change our rating as well. So most departments have a 25-year apparatus fleet replacement process, and that's something we'll have to discuss in the future to get that in play for this organization as well. So there's areas that we didn't know that were looked at. This was my first ISO rating process. So there's definitely things over the next 5 years that we can concentrate on heavily. We do a lot of training here per our volunteers, but I believe there has been some non-documentation of that training because they just do it. When they're here, they train and they don't write it down as something that they did and turn it in as a training record. That's something we can definitely become better at, because I do believe we've lost hundreds and hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, training time that strictly hasn't been documented inside our system. They've done it, but they just haven't filled out the paperwork. So that has been vetted to the organization, that any type of training that they do from this point forwards, especially on the fire suppression side, needs to be documented on our training sheets. So Chief Shields can put that into our training records, and they are accredited the hours, because that's what they look at as training hours per volunteer. And the guideline is 220 hours per year, roughly 220 hours of plus or minus, I believe that's correct, per year per volunteer, just on fire training alone. This has nothing to do with what we do on the medical side. So it's, there's one person in this organization that met that requirement, and she also works for District 7. And I believe she was one of the only ones, if not the only one down at District 7 that met the requirement. That was Jody Ingles.
220 hours?
220 hours, I believe, is correct.
Per year?
Per year, per volunteer, and that's just fire training. Okay, that's just fire training. So when we have 2 fire trainings a month at 3 hours apiece, they get 6 hours, a year if they come to, or 6 hours a month. What is that, 72 hours a year if they come to all 12 months of fire training. So you can see we have a lot of fire training that we have to add in there. If the higher we get to that point, or the closer we get to that point per volunteer, the more points we acquire. They require the vehicles to be weighed every year. That was something we had no clue. That has not been done for decades within this organization. We haven't been constantly weighing our vehicles, but those records they want to see. We had great vehicle maintenance records, so they took those. They were very impressed with the organization and our record keeping. And I haven't heard or received an email from the Washington State Rating Bureau stating that any negativity is coming out of the current process that's in place. I do believe, I think we have a great chance. My desire, my hope would be that we stay at a 6. We don't retrograde to a 7, but that we stay at a 6. And I do believe in the next 5 years, through the processes that I can change and the membership can help with, we have a great shot at going to a number 5. So I believe we have a great shot at getting a rating of 5, going from a 6 to 5, which is an improvement. Going to a 7 would not be an improvement. But there's a lot of factors as well. So that's that, and that's complete, and I'll let you know when I hear back from the Washington State Rating Bureau. Apparatus, we had services 858 and 85802 in the month of April. They both went in for their yearlies and oil changes, things like that. We just spent $1,800 on 85802, which is our white ambulance. And the reason why we had to spend $1,800, which will be on the credit card next month, is, just so you know, we had to fix the heater in the back, actually. It had to be replaced. And we found this out on one cold night, that the heater with the patient in the back was not functioning properly. So we had about 15 blankets on our patients, trying to keep them warm. But this is something I don't believe 85802, we knew about this. I don't think it was known before my time here either, that the heater wasn't working properly. It was all gummed up and clogged. And so we took it over to where BC Ambulance gets their ambulances serviced. And Ford didn't want to have anything to do with it over in Richmond, so we took it to BC Ambulance's shop, and they were nice enough to do that work for us. But it was $1,800. So it's still a great ambulance. It's in pristine condition. It still does the job that we needed to do, but it's just old. So member roster: 45 members, 33 Canadian, 7 Point Roberts, 5 county. 4 paramedics on staff, including myself, 15 EMTs, which 4 are advanced EMTs, 3 ambassadors, 36 firefighters. Volunteer hours for the month of April: 2,395. Volunteer payroll: 11,359 if everyone was getting paid. Combined chief hours: I worked 171.5. Assistant Chief Shields documented 145. Total at 316.5 hours for the chiefs. We had 16 calls in April. We had 9 EMS calls. 4 of those were no transports. 1 was a home visit, and I'll expand on that. And we had 4 calls that we transported to Medic 45 out of Ferndale. So I want to let you know that last month was our first community paramedicine outreach, and that was a home visit to a previous patient of ours that wanted us to come by and just check up on them and make sure. So that they've asked us to do that on a weekly basis now. And we will go over, we'll spend some time with that individual, see if they need anything, do a small medical checkup, and if they have any concerns, we're able to contact their physician and go forth with the outreach that we're trying to provide through this organization in that area. So I'm very proud. It was done by Christina Tersakian, one of our EMTs, and one of our firefighters, Jeff Sadgrove, last month. So very good job there. Public service, we had 1 call. We have 5 fire classification calls, 1 outdoor burn, 2 smoke investigations, and 2 false alarms. And then we were dispatched by Prospect to the wrong address. I think they wanted us to go to Bellingham. if I'm not mistaken. It would have been a long trip, but we would have gone. And it's mutual aid. It just would have taken us for quite some time. So, right now, I want to say that tomorrow we have 3 students going over to Idaho to take their National Registry practical exam. 2 of them are advanced EMT students. That's Josh Martin and Christina Tersakian. And Jeff Sadgrove is the EMT student, and they'll be leaving early tomorrow morning, arriving in Idaho early to mid-afternoon, spending the next 5 hours once they arrive practicing for the exam that is tomorrow. So they'll take the National Registry tomorrow. Hopefully they all do well. They'll come back in good spirits, and then they have to take the written here at Western Washington University upon their return, and that is scheduled them as individuals. So hopefully we'll have 2 more advanced EMTs coming around June, July within the organization.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, unfinished business?
Now, I have a word and
Yeah.
switch off. 2 things. One is the ISO is a very important rating organization that has integrity and a reputation throughout the world. And anything we can do to get on their radar screen and the size of our operation is a noteworthy event.
Absolutely.
We'll watch that.
Yep.
And see how we can promote that to our advantage.
Yep. And as stated, I believe over the next 5 years, because they come every 5 years. They're supposed to come every 5 years, but it had been a while. I think it had been close to 10 years since they made it up to our little oasis up here. But they plan on coming back in 2015, and like I said, I think some of the things we didn't know that were going to be looked at and previously that haven't been done, I think we have a good shot at improving our rating.
5 years, 2020? They're not planning to come back this year.
Sorry, yes, 2020. Yeah. I just had a bad moment there. I thought it was 2010. So I said 2015. Okay. But yes, 2020 is when they plan on returning next. And if we can hold strong on our documentation of all of our training, weigh the vehicles, do the driving course with the vehicles, and some other things that were stated to Chief Shields and myself, I am very confident that we have a good shot at reducing it in 2020.
Can somebody like our insurance representative, Tony Kelly, to let the people know that if it does come from a 6 to a 5, how much it will affect their own insurance?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I tried to look into that to see how much a point moves the insurance cost for a homeowner. It's very hard to come by, and I can reach out to Tony to see if he knows. Sometimes it may have just a very minimal effect on somebody's owner. So I don't think we're looking at hundreds of dollars, a year in savings, but even if we could save, saving money is saving money. So by having it reduced, if we're able to accomplish that successfully, is a great thing for not only our organization, but the community as well.
And I'll ask the request to explain to me a little bit about what the objectives are for the home visit. And did I hear you say it will happen every week?
Yeah, so the home visit is a community paramedicine outreach program on the medical side of what we do. And it's something that's sweeping across the nation. Where I also work, Fire District 7, we have a program instituted. We also, part of that is a falls program, and that's when we do go on calls. But we went into agreement with Northwest Regional Council on Aging and Disability. And this is a new program that we started May 1st with them. It constitutes our ability to walk into a home on a medical call, or when we do one of these outreach, that anybody in the community could call this organization.
They're calling.
They're calling, so you're right. Call this organization and request us to come by and do a welfare check on them. Most programs are to target 911 abusers for the community outreach or paramedic programs to help them not utilize or overuse the 911 system, taking needed resources out of service for something as simple as a stubbed toe, or questions about their medications, oxygen assistance, those types of things, when it's not an emergency acuity. So those programs, we don't have the 911 abuse here. I have problems trying to get people to dial 911 and not dial the fire station directly. I try to explain that in my fireside chats, that we don't always have people here, even though there's somebody on duty. They may be out on a point already, but we don't always have somebody here, so I always stress to call 911. And it's nice that we don't have any 911 abusers, but this would be a valid program for that, to help understand why the person is utilizing 911 so extensively for non-acute emergencies. And I think that any patients that we touch in our emergency response and have to transport, these are great people to go back to see if they need our extended assistance within the organization. And that is just the outreach or weekly contact to make sure they're doing okay, and if there's anything that we can provide. Now, the program with Northwest Regional Council, the Falls program, is another program that we've instituted, and that allows us to ask the person if they want outside assistance to stay in their home. It's an outreach program that gets social services involved through Northwest Regional Council, and programs that help people that are aging stay in their home and not have to go into nursing homes. So it's called a Falls or Falls Prevention Program, but it's really a program that allows them contact with organizations that they may not know exist, or that they have the ability to contact and have free of charge services from, that can help them come up, clean their homes, go over their medications. They'll send up nurses to review their medications. If they see a conflict with medications, they can contact their primary care physician, and then the nurse will explain the conflict of medications that they're on that may be causing their dizziness. And the reason, if it is a fall that we're called, the reason why they're falling because of their dizziness, and it's a medical or medication conflict that they're having. So a lot of the calls that we get that are for dizziness or syncope, fainting, are medication issues with individuals, because they don't understand what the medication is doing, nor do we have a very quality tracking system. If someone is gaining medications both at, for example, a Walgreens, and they also gain medications at a Rite Aid, that Rite Aid and Walgreens do not communicate the medications that they're taking. Rite Aid will track the medications, but Walgreens will not track Rite Aid's medications. So you don't have a very good system built at this point in the health arena to help patients not have conflicts with their medications. So that is the home visit, and that is open to anybody within this community. And it's very specific. We won't come in, do your laundry, wash your dishes, sweep your carpets, or anything like that. So don't stub your toes and say you can't do that and then call us. That's not the purpose of it. It's just to make sure that the well-being is still at the level they want it.
Great.
So our volunteers are doing a great job.
How long have we been doing this?
We just started. So just started in April. So we've only had one visit, and I'd have to say we've had it going for 2 weeks. So our next visit to this individual will be coming up. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Anything else? And we'll move on with unfinished business. Anything, Chief? I don't have any. You guys have any?
Any finished business?
Yeah, I still have to complete the estate auditor's annual report. So I will be coming in to this office here and working on it, because all the files are here for 2014. So it's due May 30th.
And I have to review that
You do.
along with a commissioner.
A commissioner.
Right.
Usually it's
The chair.
the chair. So once I get that completed, then I'll ensure that, we have a
Do you know what the
sit-down.
year-end report is?
Vaguely.
Do you want to do a real quick?
It's just a summary of, first of all, basically our income and expenses for the year, as well as there's a number of different issues that the auditor approaches, policy on different things, procedures, accounts receivable, accounts payable, help me out here. It's just a very wide range report on our operation for the year. And you have to answer the questions, and there are a lot of reports and files that they want attached, and it's all done online. So.
And it's a requirement of the state auditor's office.
It is a requirement. There are a lot of districts that never do it. There are a lot of districts that are late doing it, but the kicker is if, let's say, we went to apply for some kind of a loan through the feds or the state, the first thing they go look for is our annual report. And if it's not been completed, you're out of luck. They're gonna say, I'm sorry, you haven't done your footwork, so we can't even proceed. So it's a very important thing. It's not hard, it's very tedious. But it is important. We have never missed an annual report. Bill Skinner always did it. When he left, Nick didn't want to do it, so I started doing it, and I've been doing it since then.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Patty, you're going to do a great job. I can't wait, Patty, for you to take over. Because I went to that
And
training.
by the way, FYI, thank you, Suzanne, for doing the 2014. I'm finishing up, yeah.
Oh, I know, I just finished the
It is
hospital.
very important,
It is.
as well as the auditor, when we get audited, they look at it very closely.
Right.
That is one thing they do. They go online, and it's amazing. Anyone can pull up your annual report, and from that data that you input, it generates many other reports that they can do comparisons, of revenue, as well as expenditures compared to other departments, and yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's
and crucial.
I won't miss it when I'm gone, trust me.
Blame you there.
And she can email me wherever I am.
That's right.
And
That's
say,
right.
what?
You're in jail.
That's not that way.
Yeah, I think they have computers now for inmates in jail, so if you're in jail, she
Are
can
you
still.
talking about her?
Her, yeah. So.
Yeah, oh well. Anyway, so I say that just to let you know what's ahead of us for the next couple of weeks. And second of all, don't be changing the lock so I can't get
Oh, I was going to say, you're high risk, so all the codes are changing.
There we go.
Okay? You're going to have to knock
I'm
on the
not
door.
changing your password. Don't worry.
Don't get rid of me yet.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be happening. You'll still have access to the station, so. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. New business, Chief. This is I think the chief has the memorandum from Brian Stewart. He's going to project that on the
Yeah.
screen. If you go ahead.
Shut off the light and then.
So this memorandum is covering my contract that was ratified on the 15th of last month is that date, right? So the 15th. And this memorandum went out to the 3 commissioners for their review as well. But this is from our district attorney regarding the changes within my contract. So I'm going to read it so the public can see it. It's also being projected on that if people can zoom in on our computer. So it's from Brian Snur, who's our district counsel, and it's governing my 2015 change that starts in September 1st this year, and it's governing the terms and the other changes that I have within that contract. So, issue, review of Chief Christopher Carlton's employment agreement dated April 15, 2015. Background, the board approved a revised employment agreement for Chief Carlton on April 15, 2015. It is my understanding that several issues have been raised subsequent to the board's approval of the agreement, and this memorandum is intended to provide the board with a review of those issues. I note that I had received 2 voicemail messages from Commissioner Mersing prior to the board's approval of the contract. Due to my schedule and availability, I was unable to return Commissioner Mersing's calls prior to April 15, 2015. Basic form of the agreement. The April 15, 2015 agreement is substantially based on the agreement that I assisted the board in negotiating with Chief Carlton when he was first hired as fire chief. While substantive changes were made to the term, renewal, and termination provisions discussed in more detail below, the revisions made to sections 2, 3, 4, 7, 11, and 13 appear reasonable and, to my knowledge, have not generated any specific issues or concerns. Go ahead. Come on. Term and termination. The term of the agreement is for 5 years with 2 5-year automatic renewals for a total of 15 years. The board retained the flexibility to terminate the contract earlier upon the payment of a severance payment of $150,000 to $200,000 depending on when exercised. The board also retained the right to terminate the contract for cause without payment of any severance pay. It is my understanding that these terms were negotiated with Chief Carlton and that the board believes these provisions were necessary to retain Chief Carlton as the fire chief. It is my understanding that the board balanced the potential cost of the contract with its desire to retain Chief Carlton and to instill as much stability in the position of fire chief as possible. Given the goals of the board, the long-term and severance provisions are consistent with that goal. I note that the board's retention of the ability to terminate with cause protects the board in the event the chief fails to perform his job duties, engages in dishonest conduct, conduct prejudicial to the department, or other inappropriate conduct as identified in paragraph 10. While I recognize that questions have arisen regarding the length of the term and the value of the severance pay, the board has the discretion and statutory authority, RCW 52-12-021, to negotiate employment agreements on terms that it believes further the goals of the fire district. The renewal clause. The board has retained the right to terminate the contract without cause and without payment of severance pay at the end of the 15 years. This is an appropriate approach to the end of a term contract. Sick and vacation leave accrual. Exhibit B provides that the chief may accrue up to 200 hours of vacation leave and 200 hours of sick leaves in a contract term. This language necessarily limits the chief to a maximum of 200 hours of accrued leave at any given time during the 15-year contract term. The agreement does not have any provisions requiring or authorizing a payout of accrued leave except on termination of the agreement. Accordingly, if the chief has 200 hours of accrued leave at the end of the first 5-year term, the chief would begin the second 5-year term with the same 200 hours of accrued leave. As the chief cannot, under this language, accrue more than 200 hours at any given time over the course of the 15-year contract term, the language in a contract term is probably unnecessary, but the language in no way provides for accruals in excess of 200 hours at any given time. That is Brian Snur's memorandum of the contract.
Is it online
It will be published online.
tonight?
If I can do that, yes. If
Okay.
not, no.
Can
It may
you
be
give me
published.
Can you provide me a paper copy tonight? Because I want to write it tomorrow.
I'll think about that,
Okay.
most likely. Yeah, but if I publish it online, then hopefully that's for all public to download.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you turn on the lights, please? So,
Let me say something about that. I voiced some original reservations about the structure and how it was structured. I've come 180 degrees, and this explanation in depth with every item looked at from both sides, and with the approval of our corporate counsel. I think this is a very intelligent, forward-looking, operational introduction to really what retaining is all about. Philosophically, we use the same devices with other employees should the need become apparent. So I want to say it was a good job, and I've never seen anything. That's where those last 3 or 4 pages is where the transparency is all.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Quickly, and before anything gets wrapped up in the process.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jeff. Dan, any comments?
No comments at all. It turned out just the way I figured it would.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor that the board accepts this memorandum from Mr. Snore, and that we make this memorandum part and parcel as Exhibit C of the employment agreement with Mr. Coulter.
I think that's a good idea. I'd second that motion.
Any problems there? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it'll be published online with my full contract starting.
Much appreciated. You don't have anything to add to this, do you? It's well properly said and written down. Shouldn't be any questions. At least not from the board, and thank you for your consideration. Thank you, Jeff, for your comments. So this becomes part and parcel of the agreement, which I think is important. Is there any comments from the public? Chance.
I have a comment, not on the contract, but do you want to take it now, or do you want to take it later? The comment to the chief here is that the concern that I have about the home visit, I think it's a wonderful idea. But the problem is, I could see in the future a difficulty arising with the medical people. There could be a cry taken out that people will call the fire department for assistance when they should be going to the doctor for a visit.
Sure.
So that, I don't know how that's to be handled, but I guess you deal with it one at a time. But I could see that as a conflict problem.
Yeah. And I want to let you know that we run approximately 200 calls a year within this organization. If we get to 300, 400 calls, we're going to be a different organization. It's going to start taxing the resources that we currently have. So it's great that you voice that. There are safeguards put in place. We will not be a taxi for people to get down to Bellingham or to get over here to the clinic.
Right.
If people need assistance, we'll do what we can within the organization to find ways to assist them in that. I'm always open, right, to someone needing that help. But abusing the extension, because we don't do this at any cost. So the home visits, the extension to patients that we've transported, and that's who we're targeting first, are those patients who have actually used our services to make sure that they get back in their homes when they come back up from the hospital, that they have the contact with their family members that they need, if they have that, or their friends here on the point, that can come over on a daily basis. But one thing that we're trying to reduce is the readmission to the hospital or to the emergency room over a 30-day period. And one, that benefits us as an organization if we can not have to transport or use resources to transport all the way down to St. Joseph's in Bellingham, because a small problem usually turns into a very big problem if we don't solve the small problem, right? And we want to help people be able to get over here to the clinic and solve the small problem before their respiratory infection becomes, a septic episode, and now they're staying in the ICU for a week because they're so sick. That's something that I'm trying to, and we are getting the clinic involved. Natalia, when she is available, I'm sure the clinic will be open when Natalia is not available too, if another practitioner is here. But by calling Natalia and asking if she's in the area and if she's willing to open up the clinic to handle somebody that's having a hypertensive episode, high blood pressure episode, but it's not a hypertensive crisis to where they're having blurred vision, a headache, something like that. She has the medications and the contacts of the physicians, and she can handle that stuff here. So we're really extending ourselves out to try to help people stay on the point, not to have to travel down to Bellingham and then have to try to find a way back when they don't have that. I believe that is the core of public service, if we can provide that. And I agree that we do have limited resources. And in the past, we have been called to people's homes to get them lemonade, to get them candy, to get them another blanket. And this has come through 911. And those calls are no longer coming through because those people have passed on. But it kind of scared us because we thought we were going to lose like 50 calls a year, right? But actually we maintained even without those individuals being not on the point anymore. But we've had some abuses. Now, the program, if those individuals were still alive and utilizing our services for those points, this would be a prime program for them, right? So they wouldn't call 911 for those types of non-acuity emergency medical situations. And I will monitor it closely, and I will make sure that we're not being abused when it comes to that we're actually making value-driven decisions for the community. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Commissioners, do you have anything to add to today's meeting? If not, then we'll adjourn. And it's now 17:23.
Good to go?
Thank you, Paul. Let's sign all the documents.
Okay, I need to go change the date on that one.
On the resolution.
Commissioners, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your time.